Welcome to the podcast, Entrepreneur Perspectives, building and protecting your business one podcast at a time, a KESOurce family production. In this episode, we are going to talk about hockey, perspectives on building a business while being an athlete, and why life after sports is so important. Our guest today is Mike Vernace, founder of Shifted Hockey. Mike is a professional hockey player from Toronto, Ontario. He has played in the OHL, AHL, and NHL, as well as multiple European leagues. He has played for the Colorado Avalanche and Tampa Bay Lightning in the NHL and has played for many affiliates, including the San Jose Sharks, New York Rangers, Avalanche, and Lightning. Mike was drafted 201st overall in 2004 by the San Jose Sharks. He was awarded first all-rookie team in 04-05 of the Ontario Hockey League. Mike is focused on life after hockey as well as living in the moment and still playing the game that he loves. Him and his brother Daniel started Shifted Hockey 2 years ago and are enjoying the process. Mike's ultimate goal for the business is to help hockey players transition from professional sports to the real world after their playing career. Mike and Daniel are very aware that they will not be playing hockey forever, so they realize this great opportunity to start building a business off of their passion of hockey. Mike's perspectives on hockey are incredibly enlightening, but equally so are his views on being a business owner of a niche business, and we're excited to have him on the show. So let's get into it. Mike, welcome to the Entrepreneur Perspectives podcast. It's awesome to have you.
Thanks, Eric. It's really nice to be on your show. It's great. This is my first experience with podcasting, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Cool. We'll go easy on you, but I'm sure you'll do great.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with about 10 questions requiring a little bit more of a thoughtful response, and we're going to end with about 10 rapid-fire questions. You ready to get going?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do this.
Okay, cool. So you heard the intro about you, but of course we can't do you justice in one opening statement. So tell us something real about you that the audience doesn't know.
Real about me. Well, I mean, I grew up in an Italian household, so I have a place where my grandmother likes to keep her dishes and her nice cups and her nice silverware and drinking glasses that we haven't ever used, and she keeps telling me that we're saving it for when the Pope comes. So I have a perfectly brand new set of silverware and drinking cups that hopefully one day I'll get to use.
That's right. So it just sits there, right? Like for many, many years.
Yeah. We take it out and clean it there once in a while. I mean, it's a typical Italian thing.
Very cool. I like it. So now moving in a little bit of your business and your day-to-day work at Shifted Hockey, what is your focus and your ultimate goal for the business and then yourself?
Well, with Shifted Hockey, I think the ultimate goal is to just grow the game of hockey, make it more fun, make the people who are going to be developing, which are going to be the kids who are going to turn into basically us, pros later on, help them to educate them with relevant information that we're getting right now from being in it. The guys who we have working for us, we all love the game and we all love giving back. The opportunity to give back to the game, I think, is something that, talking to all the guys, and if you talk to any hockey player, they've been given so much by the game. So the opportunity to give back to that community is really important to each of us. And I know with respect to the business, that's how we are approaching it. For myself, I actually just like doing it. I think there's so many parallels between business and sports that allows that creativity, a little bit of competition or competitiveness to come out, and it's a great transition to be able to do something that you like to do and to continue to do it.
Yeah, well, that's how we connected through our Sportsapreneur platform. So I definitely see that. That's what you guys are focusing on. Now, with your business, you mentioned the other guys, the people in your business, the other players. Are you guys all in the same location? Are they spread around the country or the world?
Well, the guys that we have with us and our staff and the girls, we all play professionally, and or most of us still playing professionally, and they're all stationed wherever they're playing. So we have people that are in, USA and Canada, then in wherever they are in Europe. So we're pretty spread out. I think that's the uniqueness of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing too, and obviously we say this a lot. It's 2017 now, so it's no surprise to anybody. And you and I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and right, you're in Toronto right now.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise to anybody, but it's amazing how you can run a business and be in different, parts of the world right now.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, right now, like you said, I'm in Toronto. It might be hotter than in Charlotte right now.
Oh, really? What do you guys? Was it like 90 degrees up there?
Oh, yeah, probably 95 today.
Yeah,
It's a bit warm. It hasn't been too warm this summer, but it's pretty warm today. So.
Yeah, I get it. It doesn't work for the ice that well when it's 95 degrees.
It keeps it a little bit soft. So you got to sharpen your skates if to make them a little more dull. So.
Yeah, and you were out training earlier today, correct?
Yeah. That's usually our routine is to train early in the morning, and then we have our ice sessions where we go on and we train on ice, and then the day's typically over, like training wise, around 1 or 1:30. So spend the majority of the morning doing that stuff, and then have the rest of the day.
Yeah. Well, obviously you have a passion for hockey. I mean, it's what you do all day within your business, and personally, still playing professionally. And hockey might be your main passion, but what is, when you remove everything from your business and everything you do on the ice, what is your main passion?
My family, for sure. I mean, just had a new kid, my wife and I, and he's about 2 months old now. So our family is growing. So, our family just growing up, both my family and my wife's family were both tight-knit groups, so we spent a lot of time together, and we like to do things and keep traditions going. So we definitely, try to keep good contact when we're home in the season. I find that it's a lot more busy in the summertime than it is during the season. I feel like the season's like the rest time for me.
Yeah. Is it hard now having a newborn? Doing all that you're doing with work. I mean, I have 3 kids myself, and I remember every single year my business took a little bit of a hit as a result. But strong family at home obviously makes a big difference. How has the first couple months been for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good. I mean, perspectives and priorities, right? So the priority is always family first. So with that in mind, I mean, it makes the decisions easier, So when if you're taking time away from your family, is it something that is going to be productive or non-productive? And if you can answer those questions without making your wife or your child upset, then you can move forward with it. So I think that's how we try to go about things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so as you're building your business, I'm sure you have a perspective on marketing, whether it's related to your business or to you, getting out there and playing professional hockey. And you have skills in the area of training hockey players to achieve success on the ice. But you have to get your brand out there. So you need to market yourself and your business. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think that it's definitely changed considerably over the last few years, and especially in the last little bit. I think throughout my entire hockey career, the message that we always get from teams is to watch what you say and be careful. And it's generally been be conservative on social media because, well, quite honestly, none of us really understood it too well because it was something new. I think that the people that are coming up with social media being just a part of their life since their birth is going to be a great advantage to them as they grow, because they'll understand it a little bit better than we did at the time. But now, in terms of marketing, and I think the biggest thing is you want to get people to know who you are, and you want to get them to know your authentic self. I think that the most important thing we can do as athletes is to be whoever you are away from the rink and use that to your advantage. I mean, hockey players in general are nice guys, and they're pretty humble and a compassionate bunch. So I think that, to do social media properly and correctly, it can help them immensely as they transition out of hockey so that they can step into something after hockey with the connections that they've made.
Yeah, no. And so with it, you're obviously helping mentor hockey players of all ages, but it sounds like a lot of it starts at an early age, or maybe not. You tell me with Shifted Hockey as to what the main focus of what is the product that you're providing?
Well, we've worked with various age ranges. We work with 10-year-olds, we've worked with 18-year-olds, and we actually do shifted analysis for ourselves too, to help us to learn as well. Basically the way it works is we get the game footage sent to us by the player, and we get it and we distribute it to our guys, to our staff, and then they'll watch the game and they'll do a little breakdown of stats, and they'll take some notes, and they'll basically give a play-by-play feedback to the players and help them to understand what they're doing in correct situations and what they're not doing, to help them understand what they're doing positionally and how they can fit into the team concept a lot better. I think where we can have a little bit of a niche is that we're all professional athletes, and we're all going through this same stuff right now. Like, as we're trying to go and assess these kids' games, we're going through the same thing. So it's a big learning tool for us as well. So that's one big feedback point I've got from all the guys and the girls that we have working for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, we see that just in our world on the marketing side. I've always said that the marketing that we do for our own company, the content marketing that is, we're doing it for ourselves. And so we want to do it for our clients as well, for our business. And that makes a big difference, just like the feedback that you're getting from the people that are doing the training, or even your clients, that they're seeing that because you obviously strongly believe in it and you're using the product yourselves. And also that's why you're providing it to the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the whole game of business. I think that, the people who do the best are the ones who really believe in what they're doing, because they're trying to sell something, but they're also, if they believe in what they're trying to sell, I think they don't have to go out and sell it. They just have to go out and be themselves and talk about whatever it is that they're trying to do. And for us, our main message point is we want to help kids, and we want to help them to be smarter and understand the game, and especially the way the game is going now. I mean, there's a lot more emphasis on analytics, and it's a lot more of what have you done for me lately. So, there's a little less loyalty to guys, and there's going to be a lot more turnover year after year. So these kids are going to be coming into pro hockey, or even high level junior hockey, and there's going to be an enormous amount of pressure on them to perform every day, and having experienced that, like, it's overwhelming a little bit if you're not prepared to deal with it. And that's why you see guys that just, you think that they're in the prime of their careers, and then they're just not playing anymore. They either retire, or they fall off a little bit, because it's a grinding road when you're being assessed every day, all the time, and your livelihood basically is on the line for people to assess you every day. And it's something that we know what that's all about. So if we can help these kids with this message early on, and help them to build their resiliency and their confidence, it'll just help them a lot more later.
Yeah, well, so it sounds like you're helping people enter the leagues, right, and helping them along the way, and then helping them after it, which we'll get into as well. So then, as you run this business, and you already said it's a unique niche, and it's, in other words, it's not every day you talk to a business owner that mentors hockey players of all ages. So what is it like to run a business that is so niche based?
Well, I think it's basically an extension of what I do day to day. I mean, we're constantly, going through the rink, practicing or playing games, and it's just, we're trying to do this on a bigger scale to help kids all all around wherever we're working with them, to help them prepare for what we've gone through. So dealing with this on a day-to-day basis it's fun because it helps me to get away from the game, like my own game, a little bit, and it helps me to take that focus off of it because, like I was saying before, the stresses of the day-to-day little things that constantly being assessed, it builds up, and if you bring that stuff home with you, it can get overwhelming, and you can get into places where you're getting into that spiral, and that spiral, if you get into it, if you get sucked into it, it can lead you to some bad places and mentally. And if you're not strong enough to deal with that kind of stuff, then it's it can bring you down, and it's needless, really. I mean, we're playing sports and we're performing, we're entertainment, but we're also battling for jobs, and this is how we make our living. So the stresses are real, and the importance of what we do on a day-to-day basis are important for ourselves and our families.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can imagine it can be overwhelming, but like you said, you have this thing on the side, and not on the side, but you have this business while you're playing, and it becomes your side hustle. And we have a content platform, as you know, we talked about already, as Sportsepreneur, where we talk about the side hustle. The side hustle is real, and we say you can do it too. And using that theme, how would you describe playing hockey as well as having a fully functioning business at the same time? And just the overall analogy you have of, like, you've already addressed it a little bit, but playing hockey and relaying that to what you have going on in your business and what you need to do to make your business successful.
For me, it's a lot of fun. And I've been trying to piece something like this together since, like 2008. Where it's my wife went to business school, and she got me on this train of thought a long time ago, and just been trying to build to something. We have a lot of downtime as hockey players, so in the afternoons and the evenings and nights, I spend a lot of time just thinking about what I want to do, and I have quite a few notebooks filled with just writing and ideas and notes, and basically it's led me to this day and where we are now. And the idea that it started with is very, very different than what it is today. So it's a process, and it's definitely been a lot of fun to do that set of stuff, and it's been a lot of fun to challenge myself in an area that I'm not totally comfortable with. I think that's the beauty of it. I think that's what I enjoy the most, is the hustle of trying to make it in an arena that I'm totally not used to. And I think that's what's made me so hungry to want to do something like this and find ways to make it work. Because as I was saying before, sports and business have a lot of parallels, and one of those things is you can get into that ring, I guess, and you can step onto that arena, onto that surface, and you can play against, there's other competition out there, and you want to make your product and your service the best, but that there's other people that are doing the same things. And ultimately, I think that's the best. I really believe that competition is so vital, because it pushes us as entrepreneurs and as businesses to be better. And ultimately, it's going to lead to giving the kids and the consumers a much better experience and better products. And, it's going to help them in the long run, which is, what every business should aim to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have the spirit that it takes, right? It's this evolution, and you put these ideas down, and I understand where you're coming from, because there's so many different ideas I've put down, and some of those just turned into something else. And like you said, the journey that you go on, the evolution that you go on to get to where you are today, and it'll continue to evolve, right, for many years to come.
Yeah.
And that's the awesome thing about it. And that's like your game of hockey developing and your game of business develop. So no, it's pretty amazing to hear that story. We like that a lot. And then But we also hear a lot about the negatives in sports, especially in youth sports, and you deal with a lot of kids, and we talk about the specialization in youth sports. And so many kids are pressured today to, pick one sport. If you play hockey, if you play baseball or football, whatever it is, you got to play that sport. And that's whether that's from parents, other kids, coaches, you name it. They want to become the next LeBron or Connor McDavid. And, it's just, there's only, two of those guys, and they're in two different sports, and there's a few other ones, of course. But what is your take, and what's your company's take on specializing versus being a well-rounded athlete?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I think I'm really passionate about this particular area. I mean, if you look at our Instagram and all our social, we have a series of videos called LTADs, and it's basically long-term athletic development. And the trainer I've been using for a long time, Dennis Lindsay, he's really good at knowing how to get the most out of an athlete and how to build athletes. Because in my estimation, the best athletes are well-rounded. So, I mean, if you specialize too young, it's going to just lead to burnout. I mean, I played hockey in the winters and soccer in the summers all the time growing up. And I mean, if I hadn't said family earlier about my passion, I would have said soccer, and or all sports. Just they're just sports in general are just a lot of fun to play, and it's good to be a kid and go out and have fun and learn different things. Because me being a hockey player, I learned how to be creative by playing soccer, by playing football, by playing tennis. It wasn't my specialty, but I definitely learned how to be creative, because I had to learn how to get the ball around someone who knew what they were doing, or I had to learn how to pass the ball to where someone was going to be going to, or anticipate where someone's going to hit their forehand, right? You learn so much about being creative, and then when you go and you bring that to being a hockey player or whatever sport you're in, your creativity is going to go through the roof, and then you're going to learn how you can play in a lot of different ways. You're going to be a more well-rounded hockey player by being a well-rounded athlete. So I think that specialization is getting too out of control, in my opinion, right now, and we need to bring the kids back to having fun and being kids, right? I mean, it seems to me that the careers for kids in sports now, when it was 10 years ago, the career would start from 20 to 30 or whatever, 20 to 35. Now I feel like the career starts 10 years old, because there's so much pressure on these kids to perform at such a young age, when they really should just be going out and having fun and learning how to compete as a teammate. It doesn't matter what sport you're in. You're learning how to compete as a teammate, how to be a team player, how to stand up for your teammates. I mean, the greatest lesson I learned in minor hockey was when I was 9 years old, and one of my teammates was getting pushed around on the ice, and my coach said, "Hey, don't just stand there, get in there." And I learned that I had to care about my teammates, and that's one of the biggest lessons I learned in minor hockey, was to, you care about your teammates because you're with them all the time. And, I think it's one of the lessons that I think that all these kids, could be learning, as well as, a lot of other lessons. And I think that other sports will help. And being a well-rounded athlete is definitely something that I would advocate.
Yeah, well, and it's saying something, too, that's coming from a professional hockey player, so someone who's played a lot of hocky, and also someone who runs a business around, your success is going to be predicated on actually talking to people that play hockey. But you're out there advocating for them to play other sports. So to me, that's, I can sit here and agree with you and say specializing is getting over the top, and I see it all the time. But hearing from athletes like yourself that are watching this thing play out and whose business revolves around training people how to play hockey, that speaks, very loudly. So, yeah.
Well, I just see it all the time. These kids, they're coming out of junior hockey, or, the ones that are fortunate to make it past minor hockey into junior hockey and into pros, the burnout that they have. some of these kids are playing over 100 games a year, and that's insane. Like I don't know, like even at the NHL level, you can play if you win the Stanley Cup, you're going to play 100 games in a season, or just around 100 games. Like that's to win the Stanley Cup. I mean,
right. And those guys are completely out of gas at the end of that.
And there's not a lot of time to recover. I mean, the summer goes by really quick for teams that don't make the playoffs, let alone if you go all the way to the finals. I mean, guys have been, like, for me, myself, like I was, by the time Pittsburgh won the Stanley Cup, I was 2 months into my summer training program. So, I mean, it's definitely something where these kids are playing all year round, and they're just getting burnt out, and not even physically. I mean, these kids can play, like there's energy to burn. Like, it's not the physical aspect, it's the mental aspect that they're getting burnt out, and it's leading them to be unhappy. And I think the most important thing that we can do is to help the kids be happy, because I think that's going to just push them to want to do more of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just being happy in whatever you do can lead to a lot of good things. The good news is, though, and we've talked about this in the past, is there you can make a living playing hockey, and there's a lot of young hockey players that they think the NHL is it, and that's the only league they can go and play in. But there's so many leagues out there, the OHL, the AHL, and you name it, Europe. What would you tell a young aspiring hockey player that the odds of making the NHL are so low, as we know? But what would you tell a young hockey player as it comes to looking ahead towards, hey, this is their dream, they want to play professional hockey?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The odds are pretty low to make it. I mean, there's only been just over 6,000 people ever to play in the NHL, and last year alone in the Greater Toronto area, there was 40,000 kids that played minor hockey. So I mean, year after year, that's a lot of.
And it's a world sport. It's not just like
and
a lot of these sports
imagine that's just in one city. Imagine like the entire world. The competition is high. So I mean, you can make it. You can make a career out of it playing, in a lot of leagues. Like, I've played in the American League for a long time now. I've played over in Europe, and I had a small cup of coffee in the NHL, but the taste is just so good, right? And that's what we all strive for as kids. I mean, I think that's the catch-22 or the double-edged sword, I guess, of being an athlete. You have to have that razor focus, and you have to want to, like, the kids that want to make it, they have to want to be the best. And I think that's to be an athlete, that's just a mentality that needs to exist once you start to specialize in your sport. I mean, I think when you're 16, 17 years old, I think that's usually the transition period of, like, okay, I really want to focus on being a hockey player now. And I think that's when all your attention, all your focus has to go towards, what am I going to do to make it? So I understand, because I went through it. If you don't think that way, it's going to be tough, because you're not going to make that decision. Like, once when I was 17 years old, I made a conscious choice that on Friday and Saturday nights, or my friends were all going out, and they were all going out and hanging out, and they were going to parties and stuff like that, and I had to go to practice, or I had to train, or you make those sacrifices because you've made that conscious choice to want to excel and to make something in your sport, something of yourself with your sport. So in hockey, we're very fortunate that if you don't make the NHL, there's lots of other opportunity for you to go play. I mean, there's the American League, there's the East Coast League, there is lots of leagues over in Europe. I mean, each country has their own league, and they're all really quality leagues, and the ability to make a living for yourself is great. I mean, other sports, I know, like, if you don't make the NBA, you're pretty much done after college. I mean, you could play in the G League now, but before that option didn't exist. I mean, you can go to Europe for sure, but it's just, there's a lot of option to play hockey professionally, and you can make a nice living for yourself.
Yeah. Well, and then so you make the league, right? You're in a team, and you can get traded, right? And you've been traded, right, throughout your career.
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah, and so I guess in business, like, I don't know, you try to create the analogy there. I suppose you can get moved maybe to a different department in a new city, but being traded is so unique to sports. What is it like to be traded?
Well, it's a catch-22. Like, you feel upset that someone like doesn't want you anymore, but you have to know that there's somebody else that wants you. So, I mean, right, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah.
No, I mean that you always have to have the optimistic outlook. I think you're going to a new team where they want you, and you're going to make the best of it. Hockey is hockey. Is hockey. I mean, you make friendships in all the places that you play, but when you're on the ice competing, you have your teammates, and you go to battle with them, and you try to win hockey games, and that's the fun part where the competitiveness comes out. But when you get traded, sometimes it's a little bit of a letdown because you're part of a good team and a great group of guys, and you have like roots there, and you get traded, it kind of stuns you, and it catches you out of blue. You can hear numerous stories of guys being updated on them being traded by like social media, or someone calls them out of the blue, or they have no idea that they've been traded. So that kind of hits you like a gut punch. So sometimes it's tough to deal with, but if you have it, once you get over that part, if you're optimistic, you can look forward to the new team that you're going to that wants you. And the teams are usually pretty good about making you feel comfortable, and hockey guys are, they're the same everywhere. They're a great bunch of guys. So
very welcoming.
Fit in.
And I'm sure you've seen though, but like families, right? So if you have kids in school and you get traded from one side of the country to the other side of the country, I mean, it can throw off an entire family. I mean, so it doesn't just impact the actual player; it can impact the entire. You talk about you being close with your family. I know you have a 2-month-old, but like there's just it throws you out of the place that you're used to with your family.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. I mean, the first year my wife came to live with me, we got traded twice in one season. So we went from the East Coast all the way to Texas, and then back to the East Coast. So, it was a few times that's the other thing. Like when you get traded, you just have to pick up and go. Like
you got a game tonight, right?
there's no time really to pack your things and like schedule everything. You just pick up and leave, and a lot of people don't see that part.
Right.
When you're traded, usually you got to be there the next day, the latest, or even sometimes that day, and then there's not really an opportunity to really get your things in order. You just kind of leave, and you leave it up to either your friends, your teammates, or your wife or your girlfriend or whoever is living with you at the time to deal with that. And that's something that is tough to deal with, because you're thinking about going to play with a new team, and you're like, oh my God, how do I get all my stuff from last place I was just in?
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, it's real life, right? I mean, it's everybody's business has a real life scenario, and I mean, I think, like I said, trading is very unique to sports, but it's the real world, real life thing that we have to deal with, and there's fears. People are like they're fearful of all the different things that could go on within their business, or if they play for a sports team. It's kind of taking that biggest fear and taking it to the next step. Like, what is the biggest fear you have in your business life?
Honestly, as long as my family is okay, there's no fear.
Yeah.
Truthfully, in business, like you can't have fear, and I mean, there's no reason to be fearful. You just go and you do what you do. As long as you're being your authentic self, I think that you're going to give yourself your best opportunity. So, with respect to business, not having fear is a pretty important way to go at it. I know that some people might fear, doing certain things, and that's okay, because I think fear can, if you use it the right way, I guess, it'll keep you from doing the wrong things. But I mean, in terms of being afraid to put yourself out there. I don't think there's room for it in business because everything is changing so rapidly and there's so much competition that you just got to go and do what you got to do.
Yeah, no, I agree with it, and it makes a lot of sense, and it all fits in with everything that you said. I mean, you have a unique approach to what you're doing, playing professional hockey and having a unique business, and it's pretty amazing where you've gone, and it'll be fun to watch your business grow for a while. So we definitely appreciate the thoughtful responses you provided. Don't go anywhere, because we are going into some rapid fire questions right after we thank our sponsor. West Conner Insurance is a leading property and casualty agency in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks to their love of entrepreneurialism and insurance, they have sponsored this podcast. You can find the office of West Conner Insurance on Providence Road in South Charlotte, North Carolina, near the new developments of Waverly Place and Ray Farms. If you are looking to get a quote on your auto or home insurance policy, give Wes and his staff a call at 704-665-5340, or you can find them online at westconner.com. So now we do want to move on to the rapid fire round. We're going to start the shooting gallery, start firing pucks at you. A few of those might be a little bit more difficult, but you ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, let's do it. I hope I can answer you their questions here.
That's right. All right. So what book are you reading right now?
I'm reading a couple, but there's one by Gary Vaynerchuk, which is Jab, 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 Right Hook, which is pretty good. And then there's his, I think it's a Thank You Economy.
Yeah.
And then by Dave Asprey, it's A Bulletproof Diet, and then Headstrong. Those are some pretty good books that I'm into, either on audiobook or the ones that I'm reading actual physical book. So
okay. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. I've been following him for a long time. It's amazing how he's grown in his, it's almost like he's an athlete, and he's
he's got that he's got that athletic, he's got that athlete mentality, which makes him so appealing to a lot of business people, and he's got that ability to walk and talk a big game and back it up. So it's good. He's a humble guy. I think that he's doing well for himself. Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. That's a definitely connection that we have there. So what is your favorite social media network and why? I think in terms of the business, right now it's Instagram because it's just where everyone's attention is right now. But in terms of personal, I would probably say Twitter, because Twitter is where you can get information. It's where a lot of the hockey people are. It's where my own personal account, where you can reach me the best, and where I engage most with people. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to have discussion on Twitter and in real time. So I think Twitter is great. Yeah, no, I agree with both of those. I mean, that's where Instagram is one of the first places, besides actually Anchor, where we connected. And like you said, Instagram's attention, everyone's there, and it's just, you can have great starting conversations. But like you said, taking it to Twitter is wide open there. So I would agree. Yeah. So what social media app do you just not get? Oh man, you know what? I've done so much research on a lot of them. I've looked into Musical.ly because, like I said, Gary Vaynerchuk, he's advocating on learning about that, and it's not something I'm really comfortable with. So that's something that I should probably learn how to use, but I just really don't see how I can fit it in right now. Yeah, so. I mean, the only reason I know about Musical.ly is because of my kids, and I think it was this year and the year before, every kid in the school was using Musical.ly. It was just nonstop. You'd see them in the house and they'd be filming a Musical.ly video. But I would say probably a lot of the kids that you would be training in hockey, their attention's going to be there. So if they saw silly videos, let's say on the ice, and who are these guys? What is this shifted hockey thing? That would be the connection there. It's almost making fun of yourself. Shaquille O'Neal's on there. I see my kids looking at that all the time, and he's just making fun of himself, and just having fun with it. And I think that would be the connection to where who are these guys? What are they doing? And oh wait, they're professional hockey players. Maybe they can help me out. That would be the thing I could think of. Well, hey, that's pretty good. Thanks for that tip. I mean, I might have to give you some consultancy opportunity here. That's right. So what is the number one way you guys are driving business right now? I think word of mouth, because the hockey community right now is, especially the people that we're dealing with, is generally the kids are engaged on social media, but the parents, they're starting to. So I can see the parents starting to comment more on Instagram, and they're starting to pay a little more attention. But word of mouth is definitely where we do most, but I think that Instagram and Twitter is somewhere that we get good engagement on. So I think that's somewhere that it'll be moving to soon.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's the evolution of it, where it starts word of mouth, and you kind of need to knock them down one by one, and then let that escalate, and they could be your word of mouth on Instagram, Twitter, whatever platform that might work. So
yeah,
that
for
sounds
sure.
good. So what would you tell an up and coming entrepreneur to focus on?
Hustle, for sure. You're going to have to do a lot of work and not see a lot of reward, but you're going to have to just continue on doing what you do, because if you believe in what you're doing, eventually the cream always rises. So I mean, if you believe in yourself enough and you're going to do it, then you're going to find a way to make it happen. And hustle, and then making sure that you stay true to who you are, and being authentic. I don't think for longevity it can work to not be yourself, to put on a bravado. I think that the most important thing you can do is be whoever you are.
Those are good ones. So what's a personal story around that got you where you are today?
You know what? There's one story that comes to mind. I mean, I wrote about it in one of my blog posts, and I did a story for it for a new company called The Athletic, which is it's a new take on sports reporting. They're pretty good, and I got to know the editor quite well. He lives in Toronto, James Myrtle. He's a good guy. And one of the stories that, for me, it kind of goes back to that long-term athletic development, that 16, 17-year-old range where you got to make up your mind on what you want to do. And I remember that one evening or one night, it was like early morning, like 2, 3 in the morning, and I was just listening to my iPod and trying to find out, what I really wanted to do. And then, that Linkin Park song came on, Somewhere You Belong, or Somewhere I Belong. And, that's the words, it just got me. Just in that moment, I got a lot of adrenaline, and I said, you know what? Hey, listen, I'm going to put 2 feet in here, and I'm going to jump, and I'm going to go all in. And, with Chester Bennington, the thing that happened with him last week, I mean, it took a little bit out of me there, because they helped me out in a place where, in a time of my life when I was really impressionable. So I think that's one story that for sure will always stick with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what? You put that out there, like you said, you have it in a blog post, but I also noticed it in your Twitter feed that you had, I don't know when that was, but it's there as well. So I think that's very cool that you are sharing that, not only on this podcast, but everywhere else that you are. Mm-hmm. So who's the toughest hockey player you've gone up against on the ice?
What do you mean, like tough as in like the biggest guy? Or like
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if either guy took you out in the corner or some other way. I mean, maybe, like you said, you've already addressed the mental aspect of it, so guys can wear you out mentally, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is, I mean, with all the analytics coming, and they're trying to say that, they're trying to, show how, like, the importance of players in the game. And from experience, I know that the guys who are playing less minutes but are trying to be that intimidator role, you definitely know when they're on the ice.
Yeah.
I mean, my first NHL game, I played against Minnesota, and Derek Bugard was on the other team.
Yeah.
And my very first shift was against him, his line. So, you definitely know where someone like he was on the ice at all times. I mean, those kind of players, it's kind of like it's going away in that respect today. Like the tough guy is kind of something that's falling by the wayside. But I mean, growing up in that era where those guys were so important, I still respect them, and I still think that there is a place for them in the game. I know that anytime those guys have been on my team, I've been truly appreciative of what they do and what they brought to the table, because in my opinion, that's one of the toughest jobs you can possibly do in sports, and I have to give kudos to them, because those guys, they're the ultimate team players, and yeah, I can really appreciate them.
Yeah, I mean, they're protecting everybody on their team, right? I mean, so if you're going to think twice about hitting a star player, or any player for that matter, that's not, known for, let's say, fighting, and those guys are going to step in and take care of it. So almost like self-policing on the ice.
Yes, which makes the game, that animosity in the game that's kind of a little bit lost right now in the game. I think that's an integral part that, I think that hockey should not get rid of that part. So hopefully that part sticks around.
Yeah. So what are your plans for this upcoming hockey season?
Well, right now we're just in the midst of some contract negotiations with a couple teams, and we're going to see where we're going to end up. But you'll be able to see on social media. So
yeah, we'll pay attention for sure. So obviously you're a hockey fanatic. You already talked about the Penguins. They just won the Stanley Cup, it seems like yesterday. And I know it's a bit early for predictions right now for the hockey season, but who do you think could win the Stanley Cup this next coming year?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I think Nashville's defense is really, really solid. I think that they're poised for another good attempt at it. You can't discount, Crosby and the Penguins.
Yeah.
You just can't discount the best player in the world, right? I mean, it's just when you have the best player like that, like it's and McDavid's coming. I mean, he's getting really good. So Edmonton could surprise a few more people. If I had to make a prediction right now, honestly, it's too tough to say, because I think Pittsburgh lost a little bit, so I don't know if they're going to be able to keep that. So I'm just going to go out and say Nashville.
Yeah, no, we've seen teams like in baseball, the Kansas City Royals, they lost. They were last inning away from winning a World Series, came back the next year, won it. Villanova beats Carolina in the final game on a buzzer beater, and then Carolina comes back the next year and wins it. So sometimes getting that close to winning it all could make you come back hungry.
Right?
Yeah,
it's the experience of learning how to win and being there and tasting it, and then I guarantee you all those guys on Nashville are so hungry and so razor focused this summer that they're going to be. Even though they had a short off season, I guarantee you they're going to come out strong next season.
Yeah. Golden State's another one, right? Cavs were one, and then Golden State flipped it on them.
Yeah,
when do we get the Leafs and Sabres in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Well, I mean, you're going to have to rewind the clock a little bit for that. But I mean, I think the Leafs are a little bit closer right now. Actually, I think the Leafs are going to be a pretty good team for the next number of years. Their core forwards are pretty special, and it's going to be fun to watch them grow.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you're in Toronto. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. So, yeah, it's been a while for the Sabres, the Buffalo sports team. Yeah. Tough. Yeah, one of my favorite games to go to was the Sabres and the Leafs. I mean, the Toronto fans would always be there, and it was a blast. And, the Sabres, I think, doing a little bit better. I mean, obviously, Eichel's he's a phenom, kind of like on the McDavid, maybe not quite as much. But, they're going in the direction, so should be fun.
Yeah, Rob Ray versus Ty Domi.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah. Right?
True enforcers, yeah. And
I got to give it to the Buffalo. They had my heart for a few minutes there with their football team back in the early '90s.
Yeah.
My first foray into football, but they broke it 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I lived through that. It's interesting, and they haven't been to the playoffs in, I think, 17 years now. So that's where we are. Do you follow the NFL?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Love
that's starting up. So now we do like to ask our guest predictions. And so being the NFL starting in 4 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Do you have a prediction for the Super Bowl, or who's the team to watch this year?
You can never count out Tom Brady. I mean, he's my favorite player. I mean, he always has been since he came in the league. Just because I happened to be watching his first game, because I used to like Drew Bledsoe.
Yep.
And I happened to be watching his first game that he came in and he took over, and then he took the team onto the Super Bowl. So I mean, I would by default I like the Patriots, but once Brady stops playing for them, it doesn't. They they won't be anything special to me anymore. But definitely a Tom Brady fan. So I'm just going to say New England because that's the easy choice. But there's a couple teams that are going to be pretty good this year that I think are going to be able to take them. Atlanta. I mean, the Steelers are always pretty good. So there's going to be. I think that there's going to be a lot more competition for the pass this year. I would say in the AFC.
And they got better this offseason, but it's funny how you can make these connections with these teams that you grew up rooting for because you happen to be watching that game that Brady came in. I mean, I remember it well because, of course, the Bills the next year traded for Drew Bledsoe, and then the rest is history, right? Bledsoe's gone a few years after. He had a decent run. They still never made the playoffs, and Brady's got all his Super Bowls now. So it's wild how that stuff plays out in sports sometimes, but it is also interesting to see how one person can become a fan of a player or a team as a result of some incident when they were younger that they saw. So it's pretty neat.
That's great.
Yeah, so Mike, it's great to talk to you about this, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that would want to connect with you, whether it's for hockey training or just to talk to you as another entrepreneur. What's the best way that people can get a hold of you?
The best way for in terms of business and to find any of our business accounts, it's on Instagram or Twitter. It's @ShiftedHockey. We're pretty much on all platforms, but we're on Anchor. That's where we connected, and then on YouTube. So you can find us on pretty much any platform. Myself personally. I'm biggest on Twitter, so @Mike Vernace on Twitter, and we can discuss anything that anybody would have. Feel free to send me a message. I'm always open to talking with new people. I think that connections and making those connections, and it's about the people, right? I mean, it's all about making and building relationships with people, and that's how we build ourselves up as individuals, as businesses, and personal brands.
Yeah, I agree. That's excellent. So, Mike, thank you for taking the time to be on this podcast. And best of luck to you this upcoming hockey season, and keep up the great work with your business. And we're excited about watching you grow it. So thanks again.
Thanks a lot, Eric. I really appreciate it. And all the best to you guys, and really appreciate you guys having me on your show.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care.
Mike, it was absolutely awesome having you on this podcast. From the unique business Mike is running to the education he provides around the game of hockey to allowing us to think differently about our own business, the work he does matters, and it allows CASSource to interview a great person like Mike and create new content like this podcast. The perspectives he brings to the athletes he mentors, and on this podcast specifically, are now perspectives you, as the business owner, entrepreneur, or athlete, can use for yourself. And for that, Mike, thank you. And for any hockey player looking for a mentor or someone to help them take their game to the next level or build and manage a business while being an athlete, I would encourage you to reach out to Mike Vernace. He is someone that has impacted many people with his mentorship and overall passion for the game of hockey. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Mike as we discussed, or you can contact me directly. You can contact me on Twitter @Eric_Kaz or with the same name on Instagram, or you can find us at CASSource.com with links to us on the different social networks. Thank you for listening to our CASSource podcast, Entrepreneur Perspectives, building and protecting your business one podcast at a time. Until next time, we're out of here. A big thanks to West Connor Insurance for their support to the insurance community and for sponsoring this podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It's a big deal to us. We hope you found value in it, and if you did, we would be incredibly grateful if you gave us a review on iTunes. Remember to subscribe to this podcast and feel free to share it with anyone you know. More than anything, thank you again for listening. We appreciate it.